Whew, definitely a little on the chilly side today. It's about 28 degrees Fahrenheit, so I think that's what, about -2 degrees Celsius. Headed out for my long run. Should be a lot of fun today. I am going back out to the local state park. You know, it doesn't replicate what race day will be, but that's not really what today's all about for me. It's about building some endurance and just getting my strength back. So it should be a good time. Oh, and you know, for this run, it's based on time. That's something I haven't really talked a lot about. But the training plan that I'm following is mainly time based. There are points in time throughout the workout plans where it'll have me run a distance, you know, like 1K repeats, for example. But I would say probably 98% of it, almost all of it, is just based on time. So for today, it's going to be an hour and 45 minutes out on the trails with about 10 minutes to cool down. So I'm going to go get it done. Whew! Won't be long. Once I start running, I'll get warm. All right, let's go get into it. Goodness. Oh, another day. Hey everybody, so we are 1 week closer to race day. Just completed the long run, which finishes up week number 3. So it's a good opportunity for us to go back and take a look at all of the different workouts and activities that were completed for this week to help me prepare to get to Boston. To do that, I'm going to look away at my computer screen. Now I'm just at connect.garmin.com, and I'm going to scroll all the way over to the left-hand side, and where it says activities, and then under activities, I'm going to click on all activities, because then you can see the entirety, all of the different things that were done for week number 3. And this training plan has me starting on a Tuesday, so it's January 10th is the first day of this week, and it had me start with some yoga. Now I had 6 different yoga sessions throughout this last week. I also did one cross training, which was some indoor cycling, and then I did one strength training. So those are things that are outside of the running activities that I did. And I'm trying to get better, as adding in some strength training. I did do a little bit yesterday, but that was just one for the week, and I was really shooting to have more like 2 or maybe even 3 strength training sessions through, you know, interwoven into this training block plan each week. So I'm going to be working on that. So I can definitely do better. And I think I called myself out in earlier videos that I need to do better about the strength training, or at least I want to, because I know that that's going to help keep me injury free. And that's the #1 goal for 2023 for me. Okay, so let's go back and we'll take a look at the first run activity for this week, where I ran some intervals. So that was on January 11th. I'm going to click on that and see what it shows us. Now, I did this out at my local state park. I did most of the run activities at the state park this week, with the exception of one. And I'm going to scroll all the way down here to where it gives me the stats. Okay, so I went just a little over 6 miles, so that's not too terribly bad. It has a threshold training effect, which is good, right? We want to have our workouts impact our performance in a positive way, and it says 3.9 impacting. Average heart rate 153 beats per minute. That's something I'm going to talk a little bit more about as we look ahead at some of the other run activities as well, but a maximum heartbeat of 171 beats per minute. Elevation gain or ascent was 188 feet. Descent was 168 feet. And then the average pace was 8:55 minute mile pace. So not terrible out on the trails. Then we have over here some run dynamics, 183 steps per minute, 200 steps per minute maximum. But because this was running intervals, I'm going to click on intervals. Now here you're going to see some slower times. And just to kind of clue you in, on that day when I was out there running, the trails were pretty darn muddy. So it was difficult for me to be able to pick up the pace. So my pace doesn't necessarily reflect the effort that I was putting in to get there. So, you know, the first interval average pace was 8:13 minute mile pace, and 7:59, 7:53, 8:05, and then 7:56. And I'll click on time and heart rate zones, because that is something that I've been paying closer attention to recently. And most of my time was in the threshold or zone 4. Now, I was not wearing a heart rate monitor or chest strap for that run. Okay, so I'm going to click back, and now I'm going to click into the recovery run. And again, I'm out in the same loop that I just ran for those intervals. I'm going to skip down here to the stats. And I went 5.66 miles, so a little bit less. Didn't go quite as far as I did the day before. Interesting enough, it had a tempo effect. And I think that's just because it's much more challenging for me to be out on the trails. So it's, like I said, the pace doesn't always reflect the effort. And that certainly was the case here. 145 beats per minute. So I was trying hard to go slow, to treat it as a recovery run, but it still seemed to be a lot of work out there on the trails. 166 beats per minute was my maximum heart rate. Elevation gain was 225 feet, total ascent, 194 feet total descent. My average pace. Now, this is something I wanted to kind of point out. I don't have any necessary conclusions to draw from this, but I thought it was interesting. So I went just about a 10-minute mile pace. So that's not, I'm not concerned about that for a recovery run as long as I can keep my heart rate down. But I didn't really keep my heart rate down that much. So it was 145 beats per minute was my average heart rate running a 10-minute mile pace. So keep that in mind because I'm going to come back to that. And then my run dynamics was 177 steps per minute. Max was 191 steps per minute. So let's back out of that. And now I'm going to go to January 15th and click on intervals. Okay, so now here I ran these in town. So I was on pavement in concrete sidewalks, and I was running in a super shoe. I was running in the Alphafly Next Percent to do these. So all of that stuff makes a big difference in performance and how much work it is to get around. So that's just something I want to point out. And then I went 5.79 miles. VO2 max was my primary benefit. So highly impacting. Like to see that. Highly impacting. Always like to see that. But this is what I thought was interesting. So I'm out hoofing it. I feel like my chest is burning because I'm really putting forth a pretty good effort. At least I think I am. I'm trying to run in these intervals. And I had my average heart rate, 147 beats per minute. Now, if you recall, just a second ago on a recovery run, it was like 145 beats per minute. So it's almost exactly the same. So I'm not sure what conclusions to draw from that. But I will say that I was wearing a chest strap heart monitor for this workout. I wasn't wearing one in the previous one. The previous workout for the recovery run was done out on the trails and the Hoka Speed Goat 5s, and here I'm on concrete and pavement, and I'm wearing super shoes. But I just found it really interesting that I was running, and I'm going to slide over here, a 7:39-minute mile pace, which is about my marathon pace, for the intervals on average. But yet my heart rate was almost exactly the same as it was when I was running a 10-minute mile pace for a recovery run out at the trails. So just thought it was interesting, and I'd share it with you. I'd be really curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. Is it just me? Do you think it was the heart rate monitor that kind of evened the playing field a little bit, having a chest strap that might be a little bit more accurate? Or like me, I'm thinking it has more to do with the fact that the trails are just a little bit harder to run on, especially when they're a little bit wet and muddy and that kind of stuff. And I was wearing Speedgoat 5s, and I wasn't wearing the Alphafly Next Percent. So I think that's probably what was going on there, but a little bit more testing and so on in the future as I continue to do these workouts and work this program. I'm going to pay much closer attention to that because I'm going to continue to wear a heart rate monitor. Oh, I bought a new heart rate monitor. So this is the one I've been using, and this is quite old, but it's not comfortable. I remember now why I kind of stopped wearing it, because it's really not comfortable at all. There's not a lot of flexibility there. At the end of a long run, especially like today when I had it on, and you can feel the creases across my chest. So I ordered a new one, probably an updated version of this. So I'll be doing a review and talking about that here a little bit later on down the road. I might even do a comparison between these two. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm hoping that it's going to give me a little bit more information too, because it looked like when I read the description that there's a slight difference in the types of information that the new heart rate monitor will give me. So I got that to look forward to, and I think it might be here today. So tomorrow's a rest day for me for the most part, so I won't be running again. Let's say Monday, so Wednesday is when I'll probably have it on again. All right, and then run dynamics, 183 steps per minute, max of 202. So I love to see that, and I really do want to get my cadence up on a regular basis to the high 180s. That's my goal that I'm shooting for, because it just makes me faster. The faster I'm turning my legs over, the quicker I'm going. Now I'm going to click on intervals here because this was an interval session, and you can see that they were 10-minute intervals. And because I was wearing a chest strap, Garmin did calculate threshold for me, lactate threshold for me, which put me in at a 7:23 minute mile pace. But here you can see I was running a 6:43. That's not bad for me. It's it'll improve over time. But right now it's a 6:43, and then 6:45 for the second. So there was two 10-minute intervals. So 20 minutes of hard running on that day. 44 minutes, I guess, altogether. I think it was supposed to be right around 45 minutes or something along. It may have been 40 minutes, and I might have tacked on a few minutes to get home from wherever it was that I completed that workout. Okay, so let's back up and we'll look at today's workout. Oh, so much fun. I was out at the state park. I actually ran the full loop of the park, which is the same trail set that I did the trail race on last summer, and I really enjoyed it. I hadn't run that in a while because there are parts of it that can be almost impassable when it gets muddy and wet and that kind of stuff, and I didn't know what it was going to be like now that all the snow had basically melted. But it was cool today. It's below freezing, about 30 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be about -2 degrees Celsius, something like that. So it was chilly enough that the trails were pretty firm, so they felt pretty good to run on. But oh my gosh, I've forgotten how many hills there were, just hill after hill after hill, it seemed like. So it was a pretty challenging long run, even though I didn't even go that far. I mean, in terms of long runs. So let's see, how far did I go? Oh, this is the loop you can see here on the map, and then I'll scroll down and get to where it says stats. 12.74 miles, so not bad. Now, when I run that loop for the half marathon race, they of course have us jet off a couple different places. We actually started at a slightly different place to get that extra, bit of distance in to make it a full half marathon. Okay, so threshold benefit. It says I'm overreaching, probably is true. So I need to pay attention to that a little bit. Heart rate, 154 beats per minute. I was wearing a chest strap today. 167 beats per minute max, and 650 feet of total ascent. It felt more like 10,000. Total descent was 594 feet. Total time was, it says run, walk. I think I had it around an hour and 55 minutes. Hour and 56 minutes elapsed. So somewhere in that ballpark. 902 minute mile pace, 183 steps per minute on average, 237 max run cadence. I don't know, that might be a little off. I maybe going down some of those hills, I was picking up the pace pretty quickly. But I also filmed the first hour of it holding a GoPro forward. So I've been wanting to do a trail video that you can play while you are on a treadmill. So that was the purpose for, taking GoPro with me and having it pointed forward and that kind of thing. But I also had my Insta360 camera too as well. So it made it a little bit more challenging for that first hour, because I was really trying to hold this arm as steady as I possibly could and make sure that I was still getting a good shot of the trails. So we'll see. I haven't looked at that footage yet, so I don't know. I could be pointing at my toes the entire time, but we'll see. If it turns out, I'm going to post it for people that might want to just throw it up on their television and put it on while they run on a treadmill for an hour. So I filmed it for an hour before turning it off. Once I turned it off, it was a little easier on me because my shoulder was really starting to get sore toward the end of that hour. And then I kind of switched up hands and switched, what I was carrying in which hand, just to give it a little bit of relief. So probably more information than you really wanted to know. All that behind the scenes stuff. So, okay, so that is it for this week. So I ran 4 different times, a total of about 30 miles altogether, which is pretty much on par with the last training block, although I think I went 31 miles in week 3, the last one. So pretty close. I attribute the distance, or the difference in distance, that mile, to being out on the trails more. It's simply because I wasn't running as fast, so obviously I wasn't going as. That's what I think is the difference between the mileage differences between this set and when I started the training block for Detroit. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Run Tall with Tim.